What's up everybody, Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to another episode of Ben Builds. This is another tutorial. I had a request from a gentleman by the name, now I apologize if I butcher your name here, but it would appear to be HuliganiskHumor, and he asked for a canvas tutorial, how I made my canvas that I had on the Stug. And that's cool, man. That's a good question. So I thought I would give you a little look at how I did it. First off, let me go ahead and kind of give you the rundown of what we actually will need. We'll need some white glue. We'll need some water, which I have in my syringe here. We'll need a paintbrush of some sort. I have a whole ton of paintbrushes here. And we'll need a mixing bowl or mixing jar. I have this little plastic cup. Should work just fine. Now what we're going to need as well as this is we're going to need some material for the canvas. And we're going to need a subject to go ahead and put that canvas on. So my subject is going to be this. This is an old school T34 that I made. It's a Tamiya kit. I made it way back in the day when I was like 15 or 16. So it was quite some years ago. And it's just a tank I have just kind of sitting around. So I thought I would do a little canvas work on that because, well, I don't have anything else I can use this on. So let's put this aside for right now. And let's talk about the actual canvas material. Now, I have a couple of things that I can use here. This here, which is just your standard piece of toilet paper. And I have this here, which is a little pack of decorative Kleenex type facial tissues. Here's the issue. And I'll pull one of these out here so you can kind of take a look at it. Making canvas requires you to use some form of absorbent material. In this case, this being a piece of facial tissue, it's not actually the worst choice. This little sheet of 2-ply toilet paper is actually a little less ideal because it is decorated. It's got a decorative stamping on it, and that's going to show through. So I might use this just for an example, but this here is actually a pretty good likeness. You want something with a uniform pattern, something that's not going to be too textured. Piece of like I said, Kleenex, facial tissue, even some paper towel that is very limited in terms of stamping. Those all work very well. So what are we going to do? What do we need? Well, like I said, let's get that little cup here. We need some white glue. So we'll just squirt some white glue in the bottom of this. Doesn't have to be too much. Nice little bit there. Yeah, a little bit. And we're going to add some water to this. What we basically want, let's grab a brush. This brush is kind of used and a little old. It's not as nice. So we're going to use the back of this and we're just going to mix this up. Just go ahead and mix this up into a nice, fine, very milk-like substance. And if you wanted to, you could add a little more. If it doesn't seem to be just right, you can add a little more in terms of white glue. Like that. Yeah, that's looking nice. This really is a very simple process, so it doesn't really require too much work. So after you got this mostly mixed up into a nice little paste-like liquid, doesn't have to be exactly perfect. What we're going to do is we're going to get the model, and we're going to select an area that we would like to go ahead and put the tarp on. So for this model, it's dusty. It's been sitting up in the display case for a good long while. So for something like this, let's just, I don't know, figure we're going to use this, and we're just going to toss something across the back of it. Let's do something kind of like that. Yeah, see, I'm not planning on keeping this on here, by the way. I'm just, going to toss it around there. Let's plan on just tossing a tarp kind of off the back of it, kind of like that. Nothing fancy, right? So now you can take your paintbrush, probably one that you mixed up with, and you're just going to start basically gathering up some of this material, picking a spot on your tank, and just kind of dabbing this mixture onto your piece of Kleenex or facial tissue or whatever you have that's going to work for this. And sometimes you might need to kind of play around with the material. You can kind of push it along, and the more kind of lumps and wrinkles you have in it, the cooler it's going to look when you get to actually brushing this thing. Because you're going to actually brush it whatever color tarp it's going to be for whatever army and military you're actually using. You're going to need to paint this, of course. You're not going to leave it white. You're actually going to paint it with some color that you're going to need. Now, I don't think it's going to be dry in time for me to paint it, but that's a totally different story. That's just picking the color of the tarp that you're going to be using and just painting it. In my Stug's case, I used a German color, the German gray. See, we're just basically just pushing this down. It's nothing too fancy. It doesn't look that awesome right now, and it may not look that awesome, but this is just kind of, like I said, a real rough instructions about how I did my tarp. So hopefully this will help, in just general making tarps. There you go. Like something like that. Let's just kind of cram this up a little bit. There you are. So we kind of have a general idea here how we want to have this. Let's put a little bit more on the edge here. Kind of like that. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of maybe fold this back a little bit, kind of give a little bit of interest to it there, like that. So we got a little interest, a little tarp hanging off the back of it. It's kind of cool. That's it. I mean, to be 100% honest, that's all you do. That's it. You can come back and you can drop a little bit more on there to kind of push material around, and you can fold it back if you wanted to kind of pull it up and kind of move it around. You can do anything you want with it, because once you start kind of wetting it down with this mixture, it becomes really very pliable, and sometimes a little too pliable. You can actually rip them if you're not too careful. So play around with it, play with different designs and things. Like I said, it depends on what type of canvas material or whatever you're working with. It depends on what kind of material you have. You might want to try, like I said, some plain old just facial tissue without the decorative stamping, just plain old facial tissue. That works excellently. This here didn't work as well because it is toilet paper and it's a little thicker and it's got a little design pattern kind of printed on it. So that's not really going to be the most ideal situation. But you can do some pretty cool things with this. You can make bed rolls. You can make tarps like I have here and let it dry. It's going to stiffen up. It's almost like if you ever did paper mache when you were a kid. It almost is like that. It kind of stiffens up and it kind of holds its shape. So this here will actually dry contoured exactly like it is here. And then once that's dry, then you select whatever color you want to go ahead and paint, and you paint the tarp. Once that's dry, come back over and dry brush. You're going to get yourself some nice detail. It's going to look like you have creases and things in the canvas. And just to kind of show you, the end product will be something, hopefully, that looks like this, where you have this kind of ridges and you have valleys and things, and this is dry brushed with the German gray color. Is that exactly 100% in scale? Well, I don't know. I did this for fun, just to try it out. That's what all modeling really is just trying new things and seeing what comes of it. I also did this to kind of give you a little bit idea of what it looks like when it's finished up. It's just basically a tarp tossed over, a Panzer III. And again, I did some scratch detail in the back of this box. This, I think, was tissue paper. Could have been paper towel as well. It's a little more texture than I'd like it to be. But same process. You had your white glue with water mixture, a little bit of brush, contour to start from one end, work your way to the other. Come on down, let it dry, come back, paint it, and then come over and dry brush it. So there you go. That's kind of the basic idea. Again, you get your facial tissue, whatever you want to use. Get your white school glue, you need a little bit of water, make a little mixture, figure out where you want your tarp to start. Start from one end, work your way to the other end. Kind of, contorting and conforming the tarp as you see fit. Once it's dry, paint the whole thing, come back with that same color but lighten it a little bit, a few shades, dry brush it just to go ahead and pick out the ridges and the raised detail. After that, you're done, my friend. So hopefully that was a bit of a help for you. Again, I apologize if I butchered your name too much, but that's how I made my tarp. So I hope that that helps out, and I hope that you have success if you end up trying the method. I may not be the best model builder around, but really hope you've enjoyed this brief look at making a tarp. If you guys have any more questions or any more requests for any sort of tutorial, by all means, let me know. I'd be happy to do one for you guys. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll see you back here on the next Ben Builds. Until then, keep modeling, and we'll see you soon.